Hello, and thank you all so much for joining me today, and those of you who will join as time goes by through YouTube. And Linda, thank you especially for this amazing learning teaching space that you have created here. It's really remarkable, and I am really honored to be part of it. So the name of this talk is The Fire Next Time. This is a very big month coming up with the US elections. The fires on the West Coast may have subsided, but there are political fires burning still that threaten to erupt into a firestorm. And I will gonna take us through the what's happening now, what we can expect over the next couple of weeks. And the fire is really going to be a base note here. It's going to be part of the theme of how this is going to unfold. The Fire Next Time, the title was the title of a 1963 nonfiction book by African-American and civil rights activist James Baldwin. And it comes from a pre-Civil War Negro spiritual named Mary, Don't You Weep, what scholars have called the slave song. And the quotation from that minstrel song is, God gave Noah the rainbow sign. No more water, the fire next time. And this is next time. In my personal opinion, we are kind of moving through that space that this refers to. In the biblical story of Noah and the ark, the world was destroyed by water during God's judgment of the wicked world, except for Noah and his family. The world would again be destroyed by fire on the final day of judgment. So that's the biblical version. There's another story that's encapsulated here within the religious context. And we're from my perspective, we are witnessing what the Hopis have said is the dissolution of the third world. So this is just an overview of the transits that we're going to look at today. You can see that we've got, the new moon, the full moon. We've got a sun ingress as we do every month, but we also have Mercury stationing direct, Ceres stationing direct, and Mars stationing direct. And then what I consider to be the major event of this lunation cycle is the third of three Jupiter-Pluto conjunctions in Capricorn, both of them now in direct motion. Anyone with planets in the last 10 degrees, the last decan of Aries, Cancer, Leo, or Capricorn of the cardinal signs, or planets in the first decan, the first 10 degrees of Leo, Scorpio, of Aquarius in the fixed signs, will feel the effects of this month's lunar cycle most intensely. And I've posted the new moon horoscopes for all signs already. It's on my website. It's on Facebook. There are links on Facebook. And this is the link to it. Which I generally include with this talk, but I decided to break them up and kind of separate them so that everybody can kind of read them and study them on their own. So we're going to begin with the Libra new moon because that is the beginning of the lunation cycle, the lunar cycle. And I've subtitled this Ignition. There's a cardinal T-square that's formed as the Libra new moon opposes Mars, Eris, and Lilith, all retrograde in Aries, and squares the Jupiter, Saturn, Pluto, Pallas Athena stellium in Capricorn. That Jupiter, Saturn, Pluto, Pallas Athena stellium is what has been driving this year. But in my opinion, it is Eris squaring those planets that has made the difference, that has made this particular year the impactful, crisis-laden period that we have gone through. You know, these Jupiter, Saturn, Jupiter, Pluto, Pallas Athena, they occur regularly. Certainly, Pallas Athena every couple of years. Saturn and Jupiter a little more frequently. Jupiter and Pluto. And then Saturn and Pluto, maybe 30 years apart, 35 years apart. So it's a relatively frequent occurrence astrologically and historically, but this year it was over the top. And from my perspective, it was because of what's going on here with Mars and Eris squaring these Capricorn planets. It's a world out of balance. Our democracy is in crisis. Now, the polarity of first and seventh house, sun, moon, opposite Mars and Eris to me speaks to the individual versus the state. And we're witnessing the emergence of a new power structure. We're witnessing radical self-interest and behavior. And there's clearly been retribution and retaliation as part of this activity. And there's also an air grand trine as the Libra new moon applies to a last quarter trine to Ceres in Aquarius and separates from a first quarter trine to the lunar north node in Gemini. And this trine will be kicked off a number of times through these transits as Ceres and the moon move through this, and the sun move through their paces, triggering the Ceres lunar node trine, which will be sustained through the entire month. This is evolutionary pressure for reform that's been generated by a deep sense of loss of personal freedoms. So Ceres comes up first on the menu here as she turns direct. You know, Ceres has many facets to her, many faces. There's a new EA book that I have not yet had the chance to read. I'm hoping to get a copy of it pretty soon. But Ceres, you know, really correlates to most of the water triad, if not all. She certainly was the birthing that took place in Cancer. She is the underworld experiences of Persephone, of her daughter, and that she also suffered through Scorpio. And then she is that acceptance and surrender and the new realizations that come through Pisces, and also the image of being the great mother. But what really separates her from necessarily the maternal aspect is the sustaining aspect. She was the goddess of agriculture. And part of her story, part of her mythology is how she denied that agriculture to mankind in order to encourage Zeus to take some action to release her daughter. It's that sustenance that she provides. It's that connection to nature that sustains us. That really is what is coming through for me through these transits and through this time that we're passing through. And she forms a part-time opposition to Vesta at the station. These are disruptions to that which sustains us, what we perceive to be vital to our survival and our personal authenticity. And she also separates from a last quarter trine to the moon in Scorpio. Our way of life is challenged by outer world events. Chaotic events continue to deepen our sense of personal loss. Ceres, from an astrological perspective, is where we have personally experienced our deepest loss. You can imagine a mother losing her child. There's no other tragedy in life that is worse than that. She forms an air grand trine, as I said, with the sun in Libra, and a first quarter trine also with the lunar north node. So our evolutionary path is encouraged to find new modes of self-expression and awareness. I think I did do that one. And Mercury retrograde in Scorpio also separates from a full phase opposition in Uranus. We've got Mercury opposite Uranus here. So there's an intellectual conflict. This is higher mind and lower mind. We need to synthesize the lower mind and higher mind. We need to somehow pull down into our rational space, into our pragmatic understanding of the world around us, the impulses and the inspirations that Uranus can provide, and to synthesize the two, to not ignore what seems to come to us out of left field. And Venus separates from a full phase opposition to Neptune, and this is important because Venus is the dispositor of Uranus, which is so active in the chart. So we separate, full phase opposition to Neptune. I've got my slides mixed up. This is conditional versus unconditional love, and truth versus ultimate truth. These are what we've passing through, where we're finding new ways to relate to each other hopefully moving into that unconditional space where we accept everybody just as they are for who they are. And then to really be searching for ultimate truth, not just our opinions and our personal perspectives and, or the bit of the truth that we hold, that we believe is the whole truth. Sun ingress is Scorpio. This is the beginning of the Scorpio cycle. And I'm categorizing this as an emotional hayride. Scorpio are deep emotional waves. And because we are looking at, squares from the sun to Saturn and Pluto, and a first quarter square also to the moon in Scorpio, which is conjunct the Capricorn stellium at this ingress, we have to use some of these Capricorn words here. We have to understand that this is potentially depression and suppression and repression are going to be the base notes here of the emotional nature of what is going to be released by this Scorpio, the Sun Scorpio ingress. And the Sun also applies to the opposition to Uranus. And, this is pretty intense. It's applying, it's wide, but it's moving towards it. It's going to move through this transit for clearly the first couple of weeks of the month. And it's going to create erratic, idiosyncratic human behavior. We're going to see the full-blown expression of individuality, individuation, people, just behaving according to their own moral compass, wherever that happens to point. The Sun also is separating from a full phase opposition to Eris. And, I've spoken of Eris so many times. I've been talking about Eris since 2015. She has been responsible for all of the heartaches and struggles and that we're experiencing, but she's a bitter pill. But Eris will accomplish what nothing else can possibly accomplish. To me, it's eclipses are create crises where there was no other resolution. Eris is like a full-time eclipse, if you would, where she's going to create circumstances and situations where things are just going to get dislodged to the point where they just have to be resolved. There's no two ways about it. And she's had very, very good, outcomes of what she has done. She was responsible for the start of the Roman Empire, and you can read about that on my website. I've written a lot about Eris. She wasn't just responsible for the Trojan War. The Trojan War led to the formation of the Roman Empire, as Aeneas, who was one of the members of the royal Trojan family, fled, exiled Troy, and went to Italy and was the founder of Rome. And the Sun also forms an out of sign grand trine, separates from the last quarter trine to Ceres and the lunar node again, first quarter trine to the lunar node. And this is evolutionary pressure from a deep sense of loss, sustained in the actual self-actualization in alignment with our soul intention. As I said, this grand trine and this Ceres North Node trine is going to permeate this entire month in one way or another. These are the transits the Sun will make as it moves through Scorpio, and I've kind of highlighted the quality of the transits it will be part of. And as you can see in yellow here, the challenging aspects, the opposition to Eris, the square to Saturn, the conjunction with Mercury, the opposition to Uranus, the square to Hygeia, and the conjunction to Juno, those are all going to be challenges. Not to mention the 4 planets which are retrograde, which will add to the intensity of those aspects. And there are 2 trines, but the trines are to Ceres and Neptune. And, trines, yes, are facilitating, but it doesn't mean that they necessarily facilitate something that's good. It may be good in the long run, but in the short run, it might be something quite challenging. And in this case, the emotional challenges that are going to be brought together by Ceres and Neptune as they conjoin down the road are going to be quite intense, and it's all going to be embedded through this transit. And we're going to begin to see this unfold. The sense of loss, the descent into the underworld, the need to find surrogates, the need to find ways to return to normalcy. The Taurus full moon comes on the 31st, and I'm categorizing this as combustion. We need to be prepared for more unexpected disruptive events, because the Taurus full moon, it makes a partile balsamic conjunction to Uranus. So, we have Uranus opposite the sun. Now we have the moon conjunct Uranus. And this is all relative to Venus in Libra opposing Chiron retrograde in Aries. And the sun applies to a balsamic conjunction to Juno and Scorpio. So there's going to be challenges to our essential resources. Check your supplies. Make sure you have enough water, enough food. You have what your pets are going to need, your animals. Know your garden. If you're in a season, south of the border, where you're coming into springtime. There will be a stimulus to find a new center of sacred commitment and personal authenticity. And Jupiter and Pluto are in conjunct the lunar north node, and Pluto quintiles Chiron retrograde in Aries. I'm categorizing this as a forced march, evolutionary pressures. We're going forward. We're going over the wall. We can go head first or feet first, but we're going either way. And it's up to us to choose to be either proactive or reactive to what's happening to our outer world events and to the inner world experiences that we're having as a result. We have to be proactive, and we have to surrender. We have to work with Neptune and Pisces and just accept what's happening and find a way to work with it. So we come to November 3rd, and that's the big day of this transit, clearly, because that is also election day, but it also happens to be the day that Mercury stations direct. It's phenomenal. The voting here already in the States is enormous turnout. We have Mercury as the ruler, first of all, as the ruler of the lunar north node. So already that's terribly significant. This isn't just Mercury, this is the ruler of the north node that's stationing direct. So again, that's going to give us insights into where it is that we need to be going. What's our direction forward? Are we actually looking at our direction forward, or are we still stuck on looking for a rearview mirror? It's going to open a dialogue critically driven by entrenched personal values and priorities. Mercury is applying to a last quarter square to Saturn, a last quarter to all the Capricorn planets, Saturn, Pluto, Jupiter, Pallas, Athena. Again, we need to finally seek the answers to the big questions that we've been asking, and our conversations clearly are going to heat up to a flashpoint. And there'll be discussions focusing on the burden of what has come before and the responsibility to find the new direction forward. Mercury separates from a full phase opposition to Eris. Eris is quite active through this period, and forms the Grand Trine, is now in the Grand Trine with Ceres in the lunar north node. It takes the place where the sun and the moon were at the lunations. So that Grand Trine is very active, and this is bringing all that emotional energy, that emotional sense of loss, that deep personal loss that we all feel it to some degree, to our forward-looking perspective, and to also the narratives that we're telling ourselves and we're telling others. Ceres will ingress Pisces a couple of days later. She applies to a partile gibbous opposition to the moon in Vesta. This is the search for what truly sustains us. There's a deepening sense of personal loss, and the search to find surrogates for normalcy, finding compassionate ways to move forward that reflect our deepest sense of authenticity. And she separates from a partile last quarter square to Sedna and Lilith retrograde in Taurus as well. The emotional turbulence generates crises that force us to become more conscious about what is really important in our lives. And she forms an air Grand Trine. She's in the Grand Trine, as I've described, with Mercury and the lunar north node, and it's very active at her ingress. So it's greater awareness of what we need to do from a practical perspective. We need to find practical, workable solutions, excuse me, to the issues and the concerns and the crises that we're dealing with. This is perhaps, in my humble opinion, the major event of the next cycle, coming head on the heels, only a week and a half after the US election. And there have been 3 Jupiter-Pluto conjunctions since the first of the year. We had one on April 4th, and at that time, COVID passed 1 million worldwide cases and 68,000 deaths. On June 30th, the number of confirmed cases passed 10 million, with worldwide 500,000 deaths. And today, as we have this look at this third conjunction, which is going to occur in a few weeks, we're approaching 40 million cases worldwide and 1 million deaths. This is what Jupiter and Pluto have managed to accomplish, among other things. But I think that this is significant. That we saw that the pandemic explode at each one of these conjunctions, and I think that we need to be prepared for this to happen again. In many states, almost in all states, the number of cases is spiking. Everybody's everything was loosened up for a while, but the loosening is not helping. And with each increase in the spread of coronavirus, there's been a broad spectrum of social and economic restrictions that went into place. So that's the other side of the stick. As the disease reaches another level, another wave, we're going to see more restrictions, and the restrictions have really been the more damaging part of this pandemic, if you would, in terms of what is happening to our freedoms and the resulting outrage and the pushback against it. So it's quite a difficult situation, to say the least. The disruptive energies are going to continue to spin off chaotic circumstances that drive planetary and our personal evolution forward. Here we're working with Jupiter, which is the ruler of the lunar south node. So we've got the lunar south node, and the ruler of the lunar south node, and the ruler of the lunar north node, very active this month, and in some very challenging configurations. You see that Jupiter is partile conjunct 22 degrees to Pallas and Jupiter, and only 4 degrees away from Saturn, applying to a balsamic conjunction to Saturn. So excuse me, no, that is new phase. I'm sorry, that's a mistake. So their broader perspectives and paradigms emerge, pointing our way forward. And this is a cardinal T-square as well, because again, we've got Eris and Mars conjunct, on one leg of this T-square, opposing the Moon and Venus. And to boot, we're under a balsamic moon, which in itself can be very difficult because it requires so much resolution to occur before the cycle can close. And it's just coming in. It's just at that actually semi-sextile point with the sun. So these are critical moments that are just embedded with stresses and crises and just difficult combinations of energies and archetypes. Mars will station direct on November 13th. Again, this is just roughly 10 days after the US election. And I'm calling this the flashpoint. This station direct is going to trigger the Jupiter-Pluto conjunction. It is opposite Mars, it's conjunct Eris and opposite Venus. So we should be prepared for some sort of political firestorm. Mars carries old wounds forward to be healed or raged against. There's just so much anger, so much angst, so much commitment to ills from the past, to ideologies that have, been subverted. We're just, faced off across a line in the sand, and it very, very difficult polarity. And so we can expect increased and continued protest, outrage, chaos, and discord. I'd like to say that, things are just going to all of a sudden get better, but they will get better. It's just not going to be all of a sudden. And the question is, how are we balancing our need for self-expression and with the requirements for a peaceful community? As Mars applies to in opposition to Venus, and Mars and Venus, need to synthesize. And again, it's first house, seventh house kind of archetype, where we're a full moon kind of situation where we need to find a synthesis in this point and between our relationships to others and our relationships to ourselves. And there's an increased necessity to change our behavior regarding health and recognize the importance of healthcare. There's a fire grand trine with Mars, Hygeia, Leo, and the lunar south node. So this is a different grand trine than the one we've been looking at. And this one's, in my opinion, is very health oriented, and it has the potential to heat up what's already simmering or boiling, if you would, on the stove. So I just want to touch a little bit on election night because it does occur in this lunar cycle. A few weeks ago, I did an entire talk on this chart and the transits to it. But I want to talk a little bit just today, just touch on the aspects to the moon, because in this chart for the US that I work with, the moon is the ruler of the 10th house and the moon is in the first house. So it correlates to not just the 10th house, which is the presidency, but it also correlates to the first house, which is the people at large. And I kind of struggled with that a little bit at first when I came to this chart to understand it. And I realized that what this tells me is that the founding fathers intended for the president to be a man of the people. I think that has happened sometimes in our history, but I think it has been the minority of the rules. It has not happened often enough. And clearly, the past couple of elections, it has not been true at all, where the popular vote has proven to be not the person who has been in the White House. I've taken the astrology out of here. You can see the aspects to the moon and from the other planets, the houses that are involved. These houses, I'm going to catch up with this on the next slide, but these are the areas of life that are going to be infected, and it pretty much covers the entire American lifestyle. We're looking at a very volatile election, and it already has been. The first debate was a shouting match. I saw better debates, in 7th grade, junior high school. The authoritarianism applies negative pressure to the democratic process. There are hidden pressures to what's going on. This is not a level playing field. This is not, what you see is what you get. We are likely to see a disrupted economy, and we've already seen a disruption of the democratic process, disruptive, chaotic behavior by the president, and lawlessness at the highest level of government. There's no other way to package it. The emotional pressures, disruptive, chaotic behavior by the people at large. Again, on both sides of the fence, both sides of the aisle, emotions are running very, very high, very strong, and it's just primed for conflict. Unfortunately, it also poses a threat of war or armed conflict, even if it's just internal between militia and Antifa and those types of groups. And we have to be prepared for drastic, chaotic changes to the American way of life. There's no other way to slice it. I like to sugarcoat it, but I can't. We could expect a political power shift, clearly domestic and foreign terrorism or intervention. We know that the Russians have a stake in this, and they are very active, in trying to promote advance their interests. Unfortunately, it's a potential for a nuclear event. We've got Pluto involved here. Pluto is nuclear power. We can't disregard that something will not happen. And as well as the underworld and mafia revelations, we know of the connections to the connections from, characters who have not really been around in any other presidential administration that I'm aware of. We can expect subterfuge, underhand attacks, and tactics and illegality from the president. And the crises caused by deception, confusion, hidden agendas, or the pandemic, police or military activity relating to the election, foreign interference, extreme political polarity, and eruption of repressed anger. And I'm sorry to lay this on you, but I kind of feel it's better to say it than not say it. I have been, on this trail, as I said, for 5 years. I've seen all this develop. I had a strong sense of what was coming down the road, and it's here. I mean, this is it. This is our Pluto return. In this chart, Pluto's at 22 degrees versus the natal position of Pluto at 25. Saturn is already there. Saturn is on the U.S. Pluto, and Neptune is opposite the U.S. Neptune. It doesn't get any more intense than that. We're going to see democracy versus authoritarianism as the issue. Foreign relations will be on the table. Land and real estate. In some places, real estate is booming because people are fleeing the big cities and moving to other places in the country where the real estate, the price of houses is just increasing steadily. It's certainly going to involve the presidency, Congress, the court system, our economic markets, universities, our religious life, foreign affairs, and public health and pandemics, clearly. This is the talk that I did here a couple of weeks ago. I know you can't click on this link, but you can just go into either the EA Zoom meetings and find it on Facebook, or you can just go into Facebook and search for this title, and it will come up. The entire interpretation of this chart from all the aspects, not just to the moon, but to all of the planets in the chart are in that talk. So the important dates to watch are clearly the Libra new moon, which is on Friday, the ingress on the 22nd, the Taurus full moon on the 31st, the Mercury station direct, Mars station direct, and clearly the Jupiter conjunct Pluto after the election. What we have not talked about here, and just to allude to what the next month's talk will be about, and I think everybody here who's listening or who will listen to this is probably aware of this, but the eclipses will occur between the U.S. election and the inauguration. It will be eclipse season. So the takeaway is, from my perspective, the world right now is in tatters. Our individual and social worlds are dissolving. Our political and economic worlds are also dissolving. The world itself is undergoing evolutionary change. Why is all this happening now? If the Hopis are right, then a new world is emerging, even as the old one goes away. And currently we are experiencing the pangs of birth. Just like individuals, the earth too has a soul, the anima mundi, or world soul. We're not just of the earth, we are the earth, and our souls and world soul are inexorably intertwined. In my humble opinion, the evolutionary tension is an opening for the space for something new to be born. Many of us are consciously focused on a version of the collective dream that resolves all the ills of the world in the foreseeable future. And many of us are hoping that the outcome of this election will open the space where we can begin to heal our nation and experience a smooth transition of power. And I am right there with you. I just don't think it's going to happen, in the immediate future. But I'm plagued, no pun intended, with this question. What will we have learned? What is substantially going to change if everything just goes, according to Hoyle, which I don't think it will. I also hold the belief that at some point in the future, we will emerge from these crises, not only intact, but better for it. As an astrologer, though, I believe that it is my responsibility to report the news as I see it, so that we are all prepared as best as possible to meet what lies ahead for us as a nation and a planetary community. What I see in our immediate future might sound somber to some, but perhaps it is time to get honest with ourselves about the way things really are and face the enormity of the effort that is required going forward. We need to find comfort in being present in the moment, to find new ways right now to enjoy ourselves. We can start by working with the Ceres shift coming up this month by experiencing nature, adopting a more natural lifestyle, and beginning to appreciate the little things in life. Aho. I want to just do a little shameless self-promotion here. I've just published 2 books in the past month. Perspectives on Evolutionary Astrology is a compilation of essays about evolutionary astrology. I really encourage you all to read it. It's some very good stuff there. And I have also compiled as a book, American at Crossroads, the YouTube that I've pointed you towards. That's a very detailed exploration, even more than the YouTube itself. I obviously didn't have any time constraints, and I'm able to spell out very clearly, what's coming ahead. They're both available on Amazon in either ebook or paperback. My astrological weather reports are issued every month. They are on my website. The horoscopes that I published yesterday are now there. The transits, this will be there as well. Daily transits, I do my story when there is an important transit on Facebook. And if you'd like to know more about how you are personally impacted by these planetary events, please contact me for a personal consultation, because that's what I do best. And I want to thank you all so much for being here. And Melinda, I'll open the floor up to questions or comments if there are any.
I have a question.
Yes.
I guess my question is, what do we do? Maybe you covered that already.
What we do is we get grounded, and we have to appreciate everything that we have. We have to kind of let go of what's gone. What's truly ours, the I Ching says that what's truly ours can never be lost. It will come back on its own accord. So we have to kind of trust, the universe to work with us, as well as everything that it's already got on its plate. So we have to get grounded. We have to find, an appreciation in the small things of life. Susan and I take one day every week, to go out. We go out in nature. We'll go rock climbing. We'll go for a hike. We'll just go someplace in nature. Last week we went up to Colorado and had a mind-blowing trip through the colorful, the leaves that were changing up there. And nature has the ability, is the therapy that we need. Part of what's wrong with our world is we are isolated from nature. And we're isolated, in this day world where, everything is just illuminated and the solar, male patriarchal kind of world. We need to get out in nature. We need to find Mother Nature and, just find ways to to do the things that we love the most. And it's the best that we can hope for. But we also need to work. Clearly, we need to vote. And clearly, we need to be aware of what's happening and, to the best of our ability, participate in it. It doesn't mean, go out, get an automatic weapon and get ready to fight. It means, to just be committed to what's important, because we are dreaming what is happening. And part of what we're experiencing are some bad, nightmares that have been in the collective consciousness for way too long. So we have to dream them out. We have to work through this. And unfortunately, we're going to have to go through some of the narrows, Greek mythology of Scylla and Charybdis. We're going to have to pass through, some difficult straits in order to work all this out. But we have everything we need. We just have to recognize it. And I hope that helps.
So Daniel, it doesn't appear we have any more questions. So I'd like to thank you from all of us. Would you all please thank Daniel Fiverson?
Thank you, Daniel.
Thank you all.
Thanks, Daniel. That was really powerful.
Yeah,
Be
thank you
sa-
so much.
Thank you. Just be safe and
Very
be well.
brave. Very
Thank you.
brave to express that. Yeah, thanks.
Thank you, Donna.
Okay, Daniel,
Okay.
we'll see you very soon with more on the US elections. So
Yes.
thank you again. Bye for now.
Okay, bye.